Everyone, welcome to Beyond. Be sure to hit like and subscribe so others can find the channel. Today we have an amazing guest, John Vuong, founder and president, local SEO Search. John is a seasoned sales professional, internet marketer with a gift for helping companies grow their clientele and profits. In 2013, his entrepreneurial spirit kicked in and he started local SEO Search, providing his clients with high-level internet and digital marketing through SEO. Hey, John, welcome.
Hey, Ben, thanks for the intro. I'm excited to be on your show today.
Yeah, man, you got a crazy, awesome, fun story here as I was doing some research on your background. And I really think you have a very unique story as compared to most Americans that are natively born here, in particular with your parents, and that your upbringing as your parents were among the last boat people, refugees from South Vietnam, immigrated here in the 1980s. And then you were born a few months later here in America, or in Canada, I should say. What was that experience like for your family, for you and your siblings?
Yeah, growing up, so as you recall, like I was very young, right? So I was born here in Canada. I was the only one in my family that was actually a Canadian born. Everyone else, I have three other older siblings, and they were all born in Vietnam, but of course, younger. So they don't recall all the turmoil, all the challenges that my parents had to go through. I'm sure they experienced some crazy, horrendous, just memories, right? Of the war, of, selling all their, so they owned a business back in Vietnam and they had to liquidate everything for gold to escape the war. And they gone through so many pirates. They had to smuggle the children for safety. And my parents they had siblings as well. And what happened was we were the only ones living in Canada because Canadians took us on, right? The immigration department. But my mom's brothers and sisters were sent to Germany, Australia, all over the world, right? It's whoever can take them at that time. So for us, my parents didn't really have much support in Canada when they arrived. They didn't know the language, they didn't know the community and people and how business operated or how life was. They only saw Canada or North America on TV, right? And in newspaper and what they heard on the radio, right? So living here, they probably never even experienced 4 seasons because Vietnam is very hot. Right. So for them, it was a new culture, new environment, new language, and they had to start from ground zero because they came from nothing. They came here with nothing. So we lived in government housing. We had support with food, shelter, as well as clothing. So early days as children, we wanted to help out. So at age of 9, I was helping with newspaper delivery, but really to help provide for the family, right? Like buying milk, bread, all the necessities of food. I was doing a lot of chores. I probably had 20 jobs growing up. Just curious, right? For me, being younger, I now was a Canadian and I wanted to kind of fit in. I was not sure how other people lived, right? In my household, what we had was each other. We've never been to anyone else's house. We've never had a sleepover. We've never had anyone over at our house, and we never traveled. So traveling was once a year. So I lived not in Toronto, but an hour outside of Toronto in a government housing. Yeah. And for us, once a year, we went to Toronto to a festival, and it was called Canadian National Exhibition, CNE. And the reason we did that was my parents, because they were, on financial support, they were gifted a free ticket for the family. So that's once a year we went to this event. It was something I look forward to every year because it was something different. We've never done that. So every year we were like younger and looking forward to this kind of festival. And it was 1 hour away. And again, we never really had a vehicle. We never really traveled. We never lived like how North Americans would live, right? So culturally, it was just different, I would say. So I know from perspective how it is living in government housing with not much, but we always had food and a place to live. So
let's take the audience back with us because I'm so fascinated by your parents' story. Not everybody left Vietnam after the war. Most people had to stay back. So there's something in your parents. And maybe when you have a gun to your head, strength and courage and steeliness start to evolve. I don't know, but there's something about your parents that they knew leaving Vietnam. They had no idea what the future held. They have kids in tow. The risk is you could spread their family all over the globe. What was it about your parents, their internal strength? I mean, to make that decision to come to North America, what was it about them, their character? What is the recipe that gave them the strength to make that move?
I think for them, it was like sacrificing their generation or their livelihood for the next generation, for their children, to better their lives. So for me, that's what the ultimate sacrifice is. As a parent myself, I'll do anything for my kids. And hopefully they live a better, prosperous life, a more relaxed or better life than you've ever lived, right? So you want to set them up for a better future. And that's what my parents did, which is laying the foundation so that I and my siblings would have a better life and a better upbringing, and I guess less stressful or less turbulent life, going through what they encountered while living in Vietnam.
Boy, they did that in spades. So as you can sort of think about coming to America, you were born here, North America, Canada, you were born there. So your experience is a little different, but talk to us about some of the difficult times your family experienced in that transition. You mentioned going to government housing. What was that like to come in for your parents to a whole new culture?
Yeah. So again, my parents didn't speak the language, right? So again, me being young, I was born a couple months later. I didn't know what I know today, right? So living where we live, we saw a lot of stuff. We saw a lot of immigrants. We saw a lot of things happening that I thought was normal. So I shouldn't be seeing a lot of those stuff, but it happens, right? As well as the support, I would say, the community. So my parents didn't have a lot of people in their circle, right? Because family is everything for a business owner or Asian culture. I'm not sure if you realize, but for us, it's more dinner. We always had a family meal together. That was one thing, like family bond is everything. And for us, the support that we had for each other was so important. Like we took care of each other, our siblings, right? Like my parents really made sure that we always had food, always had shelter, like bare necessities always had. So I'm so ultra great for that. But again, growing up in North America, kids want new clothes. They want new technology. They want new phones or smartphones or tablets. We had to earn everything ourselves, right? Like if I wanted a piece of new jeans or shorts or whatever gadgets, I had to go out there and work for it, right? I had to earn it myself. So that's why I started working at 9 years old, newspaper, and I had 20 jobs before I even went to college, right? That's what my parents, I think, ingrained in all children of our kids, like just hard work. Like,
what's funny is that's why it's what's critical about immigration. When you have people come from other cultures that don't have as much, and then you have people in North America that have everything with expectations and sort of an entitlement mentality. What you're bringing is the hard work ethic, the entrepreneurial spirit, the go work hard ethic versus today what we have in America is a lot of entitled people that want it all for nothing, right? Want it all for free without the hard work that goes into it. And I've seen this, I've been in obviously North America my whole life. And I've seen this play out. So what's funny is when you get generations, when the first generation comes into a lot of money, what do? They want to want to protect the kids and give them the life maybe they didn't have. Well, as the generations go on, those kids want to do the same for their kids. And what happens is it becomes easier and easier. Life becomes easier. You don't have those sort of the headwinds, if you will, that develops that character that you're talking about, that hard work ethic. And it's sort of like a nanny state versus a capitalist state, right? Where you can take care of a lot of people that are very capable, or you can have your mindset that says, you know what? My parents taught me that if I want something, I got to go earn it. And that's a beautiful story.
And I think it's perspective, right? Like coming from nothing versus someone that's entitled, right? And it all boils down to like how you're brought up, I feel. Like parenting is so critical in today's day and age. The upbringing, the struggles, right? And perspective, like if you come from nothing versus you come from something or middle class or upper class or whatever it may be, you need to ingrain some good work ethics or values that really help your children or the next generation, have some strength moving forward. So they're their their courage is there so that they can do things on
They're
their own.
self-sufficient, right? They can do it on
Self-sufficient,
their own.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Because right now there's so much given, right? Like when you're entitled and everything's on a golden plate for you, right? You got your car, you got anything you want, anything you ask for, because there's so much money there. What do you have to work for?
And that's a problem as a parent, man. You can create the animal. I mean, the kids grow up, they're 18, 19, they want to live in a house, they want the cars, they want the insurance, they want the cell phones, and they don't want to necessarily work. So it's a delicate balance when you're successful and you're trying to provide a good life for your kids, but also that inflection point when they hit adulthood, they're able to fly and take off from the nest, if you will. It's really important. So how did your immigration experience impact or shape your worldview? Because it's a very unique journey. When you think about your parents, you came into a country where you really had nothing, dependent upon the government. How did that shape your worldview?
Yeah, for me, my worldview was very small, right? Living in a small little community at the time. But when I had a chance to finally leave the country for the first time, it allowed me the opportunity of like abundance, of curiosity, of knowing how other people live, right? So the worldview, by the looks of it, at the time when I was living in Hamilton at the time, was very small. And my parents never traveled either. They were living in Vietnam and living in this small town. That's it. They've never really traveled like what we say, go down south or go to Europe and experience stuff. They've never done that because they own businesses and they were working 18, 20-hour days, right, to support the family. So running a small business, it was hard work. It was dedication. And that's where they were able to have enough money to pay for gold to escape the war, right? They had enough of their mindset to really move on, to sacrifice what they had for the next generation. So worldview wise, my parents were, I think, looking after us for a better future, but they didn't know what that looked like living in a different culture and country, right?
Yeah.
And it was hard for them. The adjustment period for them was challenging. And I saw it, right? Like the struggles, just them not being able to meet their family anymore, talking to, because technology today is real time. You can Skype someone, you can call someone right now. Over there was snail mail back then, right? And it took them months to even get a hold of anyone, let alone trying to find a telephone number. Not everyone had a phone, right?
Yeah, it's funny. You bring up something interesting. You're right. Communication was much slower, and with the advent of texting and the rest of it, that's instantaneous. It's a plus and minus in relationships today, right? On one hand, yeah, you can get a hold of somebody, and then on the other hand, you can really abuse the way you communicate and the frequency at which you communicate, because what it's created is I got to have it in this second sort of generation, right? So I've seen that play out. So for you personally, what are some of the challenges you had to navigate when you think about growing up in Canada with your ethnicity, coming to a new country? What were some of the challenges that you said, yeah, this is what was not a normal experience for kids my age?
I think just being different, right? And but I thought it was normal. I thought everyone was living like I was living until I went to university, and I saw that 3/4 of my class had their own vehicle. They had nice clothes. They had their parents provide them allowances, money to do things that they could do. I was working. I was trying to survive. I got loans, right? I got things that I've never even experienced other cultures, let alone other people. I've never had a sleepover. I never had. So everything was new to me. So as I progressed in my career, even like renting a room, buying my own vehicle, buying my new home, everything was new. I've never experienced it. So for me, as a human, as someone that was growing and ultra curious, I'm grateful to not having much, right? Because I could reflect and understand like what it took. And perspective wise, I now get it when people say I'm a new immigrant.
Yeah. Yeah. And, the allure and attraction of America is real, right? Because of freedom and, the opportunity to become what you want to become and not have the mandates of the state pressed down on you. So as you move forward, though, you have this driving ambition to become a business owner at some point. And in 2013, your dream was fulfilled when you founded and became the owner of local SEO Search. What did it feel like to achieve this goal?
Yeah, so I was just honestly not just being a business owner. Like my lifelong dream was a CEO of a big company. While in high school, as in college, I always had this in my mirror wall or vision board, right? And again, at such a young age, I was like, I didn't have my vehicle. I couldn't even afford jeans. I didn't have a jacket, like all these things. I was like, I had no idea what I was going to do to get there, right? But I slowly plugged away. I slowly started working. And, it took so much hard work and focus to get to that point. It was more, now I'm there. Now I have to make the most of it, the opportunity, right? That transition from work, being an employee, to then a business owner is such a big shift mindset wise, and understanding like what else is out there. Just it's hard to explain, but until you're doing it, now I have experience to like talk about it.
Yeah. So how is owning and running your own business different than what you expected? On one hand, at one point you were working for others, you were a rock star sales rep, and now you own the car keys to the decisions and the cash flow and the strat plan. So how is owning and running your business different than what you expected?
So it was a lot different, a lot more challenges, a lot more learnings and mistakes, and a lot like it's hard when you don't like. I studied business finance, but studying it is different than actually running it yourself. I had a skill set of sales and marketing, but I didn't have skill sets of operations, HR, accounting, bookkeeping, hiring, training, all these other things, like even SEO, right? I didn't have an SEO background, technical. I'm not even strong with computers, social media, and any platform. I'm just good at sales, right? I understood there was a gap in the marketplace. I filled the gap with a solution. People are willing to pay for it. And then I fulfilled it with, a service that people are willing to pay for. That's a business. You run a business, product or service that people are willing to pay you for, and you go with it. That's what I did. So eventually I got good at not just sales, but then delivering on the results that I sold and built a team around it. And every year I get better. I add more value, add more services. I get better as a business owner to become more productive, more efficient, to train them better, to help them have mental clarity, have clear values, missions, all this stuff. But it's hard when you're starting because there's so much that you need to understand and learn that it's overwhelming.
Well, you bring up some important concepts, and I would sort of step back and say, give yourself a lot of credit for taking that leap to start your own business and the risk that goes along with it. Because even with an idea, I know a lot of people with ideas, but they don't execute because they want the comfort and security of their 401k, their current corporate position. So it says a lot about, and I think it kind of goes back to your parents immigrating over here. They're risk takers, and it's in your DNA. Now, you're a thoughtful risk taker, clearly, but I think you bring up an important concept that anybody out there looking to start their own business or have dreamed about it, and they say, I just don't know enough, or I don't have all the information, that's the time to hit the go button. And the reality for anybody who's a CEO or anybody that's risen up in the ranks, it's not simply I have a good mentor that taught me along the way. It's the people that you can say, for the area I don't know, I'm going to learn as much as I can to be effective. And more important, like you said, hire the right team that already has that skill set in place that complements the team. But I would say to anybody with the aspirational goal of a CEO, just in your mindset, you have to know going out there, you got to learn as much as you can, as quickly as you can about whatever encompasses that role. Because ultimately, if you have a board of directors or investors, they want to make sure you're nuanced enough and smart enough that when you come up against aggressive negotiators, you're trying to sell your business, whatever you're doing, you have the experience and skill sets to be effective in that role. But it ultimately starts with what you're willing to learn. And I would also argue that you can have so many degrees that you're freaking hot, right? I'm being a little funny here, right? You're just burning up with degrees. Ultimately, that doesn't matter. Ultimately, it's related to the area and the segment you're in. In my case, it's medical devices, and it has a very unique skill set and knowledge base requirements that you're not going to find in an MBA or an undergraduate program. To me, that sort of preps the ability to go learn more in the future. But I think what you bring up is a very, very important point. that part of it's risk taking, part of it's thoughtful risk taking, but ultimately being comfortable to learn and grow in those areas you're just not comfortable with.
And I think real life experience supersedes everything. As much as book smart is great, until you're actually in the trenches, which is understanding the marketplace, understanding your product, service, technology, whatever it's niche industry you're in, like get to really know what it is that you want to be known for. Be the expert that people want to admire you for, right? Look at the competitors, look at who's at the top. What did they go through? Look at your competitive analysis on how they got there. What trace back exactly, because there's foundations that were, and there's footprints that you can actually know exactly what happened. And if you have an opportunity to be mentored or just follow people's tracks, go out there, reach out to them, find out as much as you can, learn from them, go out for coffee, lunch, dinner, take them out. As a sales rep, I didn't even know how to sell at the beginning, right? Like I started from ground zero and I learned from the Zig Ziglars, Brian Tracy's, Tony Robbins, all those tapes and books. But then the best learnings I had was the top salespeople at my organization. I would job shadow them daily, right? X amount of time, but I would really learn their lifestyle and what inspired them outside of the skill set. Like what modes a person. And that's more important, right? Like,
Yeah.
What is your routine like? What do you do outside of work? What are your habits? All those things are more important than the actual skill itself.
Couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more. So as you think about your business, I was reading about your biography. You mentioning as part of the business, you're traveling to other, other countries, and you're out there. Whether it be, I think it was UK, and I know it's Canada, the US, etc. How has COVID impacted your ability to drive your strategy? Has the COVID pandemic actually, since we're now doing most things online, enhanced it? Are the clients you're working with looking for solutions to maintain and retain their customers given COVID? I mean, how's COVID affected your ability to drive your business?
So search engine optimization is a strategy for digital marketing, right? So if you have a website, you want to be at least an option for people that are actively looking for your product and service. And we help position business owners' websites to be on that first page organically. So for us, depending on the type of industry and niche, there were a couple industries that were impacted quite heavily: tourism, restaurants, travel, some of the hotels and all that. They got impacted, and there's things that we couldn't even do for, like to really help them out because there was no usage. No one was actively looking and seeking them out, right? So as much as we want to help them, there's nobody searching for them. So then there's the other, stage of, there's a lot of professional services that have invested a lot of money on paid ads or trade shows or social media ads, where they're looking for a long-term strategy because they were investing so heavily on acquiring new customers. Now they want the best type of clients. They want their ideal customer. And that's where SEO really drives home wins for a lot of business owners, because it's more a sales team for you that's being optimized, that's working for you 24/7, but they're trying to help you garnish the type of quality of leads that you want in your business. Once you understand the ideal customer, that avatar, that's what it can do for you if done right. But a lot of business owners don't get it. So for me, I've been trying to just educate more, inform more. There's a lot of challenges in every industry today, and it's not the same as last year or year before, right? And it may take years to get back to what it used to be. But you are always long-term. Like I look at this as a 5-10 year plan. Not month to month or quarterly or semi-annually, right? Like SEO is a long-term strategy to position yourself as a leader, as an authoritative figure in any industry. So if you're in it for the long term, it's the best strategy. But if you're at the growth stage to acquire, to ramp up on subscription, or depending on what kind of business you're in, a SaaS, e-com, medical, and you want to buy or sell, then there might be different strategies to work better for you, like email or trade shows or whatever, funnels, right? But SEO is really positioning yourself. And I think it's a great complement to every single marketing, advertising, branding strategy out there for any business.
Yeah, no, I would agree. And so when you think about clients that you're trying to bring on board, and maybe when they don't know a lot about SEO search and being at the top of a search, it may look like a soft, value add, if you will, right? Because in businesses, there's hard value adds where I do this and drives direct revenue, right? But there is a big element on the digital sort of marketplace for visibility, for branding, for how people experience the company, right? So how do you move a customer from that perception of, yeah, that's interesting, it's a nice to have, but not a need, from a nice to have to a need to have as part of their business strategy?
So the reason I started this company called Local SEO Search was to serve a purpose of small, medium-sized businesses, service level, because I worked at Yellow Pages for 5 years. And I work with thousands of small business owners, from lawyers, dentists, chiro, physio, you name it. And the gap that was happening was user behavior was transitioning to more digital. And search was kind of taking over the traditional directory, trade shows, magazines, flyer kind of industry. So for me, that's still my go-to type client, which is 80% of the small, medium-sized businesses. 20% is more B2B driven. Once you understand the difference between the buyer journey and the types of media buys out there, from branding to marketing to advertising, to then positioning yourself that it's more of a lead gen source, inbound marketing. That's what SEO and mainly Yellow Pages provided for a lot of small business owners, because when people were ready to buy, they picked up that phone book. And then it's not about just being there. It's about what was the hook, the content, because they already had an engaged buyer ready to purchase and spend money. So they were an active lead gen, someone that was so far down the buying cycle that all they cared about was picking out who they wanted as a vendor. With SEO, it's the same way. People are actively looking for a keyword that has buyer intent search. And with that in mind, Google then will display what they feel is the best match for the website and that user for the specific time. And there's different phrases people are going to go through, but what you need to understand as a business owner who builds their own website is, how do I cultivate more of my ideal customers so that they can call me, they can generate some revenue for me or fill out that form or buy something on my website. If you're able to maximize visibility, generate more clicks to your website of your ideal customer, it becomes more of an inbound lead source of not just leads or clients, but sales. Mm-hmm. But the challenge is there's a lot of unknowns going on in the back end. So I'm in the point where I'm trying to educate business owners. Don't have the same, magnitude of marketing, information and knowledge that a digital marketer has, right? Like I've been doing marketing advertising for, I would say, 20 years almost. So something that I'm doing is trying to inform and educate as much as possible. But business owners are surrounded with so many other obligations, from hiring, staffing, operations, to training, to accounting and supplying and supply chain and all these other things, right? Do they care about marketing, or do they care about like advertising, or do they care? SEO is one division of the whole budget of marketing and advertising. And I feel it's the biggest component. If done right, it gives you the best ROI. The challenge is to get the buy-in from a marketing department, because they feel their job is to show impressions, is to show eyeballs. But SEO is more of a long-term play to build authority. And there's a difference, right? So I like dealing with business owners because there's a decision that happens fairly quickly versus a larger corporation or B2B company where there's layers, there's different micro managers that, they have to budget accordingly. They have to fit through this, it takes time, right? So it all depends on what you're offering and who your ideal customer is.
Yeah, it's funny, John, as I think about marketing departments, whether it be on LinkedIn or companies, I'll get these inbound emails, or on LinkedIn, I'll get messages, and they're asking me questions about things I want that are just way out of bounds for our business. So it's really curious. It's almost like throw it up on the wall and see what sticks approach, as opposed to a very targeted, understanding the person you're going after and what their real needs are. It's curious because I get so many emails that are just fully out of bounds for what we do or what we need. And it would feel like if we could figure out a way to really target and sort of marry the product and service with the need, the real pressure point in the business, I think miracles could happen. But unfortunately, a lot of times it's sort of like we've got a mailing list and we're going to take the same diatribe and we're just going to blast it. And we're going to hope that 2% respond, or whatever the percentage is, 0.5, whatever the number is. And it seems a very ineffective way to sort of promote the business.
Well, that's email marketing, very similar to flyers and brochures, right? As long as the list is relevant, like if it's a very curated list of segments, right? And it has a direct messaging that actually your customers want. So imagine your website allowing for you to create good content that your ideal customers really want. You know exactly the value prop, unique selling proposition, who your ideal customer is, what they look like, the framework, the personality, the trend, where they reside, everything about them, personality, persona, avatar. Write your website to speak only to them and answer every single question they have that they want about your business. And if you have 10 of your best clients already paying you, go out there and take them for lunch. Go out there and have coffee with them and get to really know them and ask them all the questions that they want or they had before they reached out to you to work with you, right? These are all blog posts for you. These are questions that now you want to put on your website because other people, that just like your ideal customers, probably are asking. And once you start answering them and then you become a thought leader for your industry, you're going to start attracting your 10 best type clients, right? Mm-hmm. And that's what a website should be doing, cultivating the best leads, the best quality, curating it all. And you then focus on just inbound of good clients who are actively looking for your service or product.
Yeah, and that sounds good in an ideal world. I love that approach. So let me shift gears a little bit as we sort of wrap up. What are some of the most important lessons you've learned in life at this stage?
So I just turned 40. So a big milestone. However, I wasn't able to experience it with my family and friends because of this pandemic. It was a complete lockdown here in Canada. What I've lived and learned is I'm ultra grateful for what I have. I've been slowing down a lot, and not just in business, but in life. And you can't take things for granted. For me, I really am about living the fullest life as much as possible with the people that mean the most to me. So I've been spending way more time with my mom, my wife and the family and my kid and my relatives and my friends and people, because life can be taken away from you in an instant, right? Same with business. I only work with, and my staff know this, I only want people that are committed, that have the same values as myself. And I surround myself with people that resonate with not just my values, but I'm a giver. I want to help. And if they're the same mindset, then I want to spend more time with those people. And life is short, right? Like if you think about business ownership, you can dictate, you can be chasing all day long. But if you mold the business to fit your lifestyle, then you're in control. So you should never be chasing. Once you get to a point of forgetting about chasing and just working on the good type of clients, because I say no to 90% of the leads that come in. And that's okay because they don't resonate with me at their stage of their business. It's actually better to say no because eventually they'll come back to you, right? When they're ready. Not everyone's going to be ready, or they might not even be a good fit. And that's okay as well, right? And I fire customers if they're not a good fit, right? If they dictate the terms, why even hire us in the first place? So understand what you bring to the table, understand what you offer and your expertise. And there's a gap in the marketplace, someone that's willing to pay for it. And that's a business. So learning so much about business ownership, being a father. I have a lot of interests now, but I read a lot. I give a lot. I mentor. I'm a part of a lot of communities. I love this stuff, like being on podcasts and just sharing some insight in my journey with audience members. Just have fun, be happy.
Yeah, 100%. I like that philosophy. So how has your life been different than what you imagined?
So life for me, I feel I'm so fortunate. Like I'm so ultra grateful to be living in a Western culture, Western society, because 95% of the world are living like just bare necessities, shelter and food. So I have choice. So I look at like not what I don't have, but what I do have. So I'm ultra grateful for that and the sacrifice that my parents made for what I have. And the people that I surround myself with, like I want to help them get to whatever success means to them, right? So if I continue just surrounding myself with like-minded people, it just makes me happy to know that I'm trying my best and doing good, right?
No, that's I think it's pretty important. I think what you're saying resonates with the kind of people you surround yourself with, because as you get older, you realize that becomes critical and vital. Otherwise, you got giant vampires in your life that just suck the very life out of you. So,
Exactly.
and when you're running a business, you have a small family. Energy is key and critical. So, what advice would you like to give to your younger self? I mean, here you are at this age of 40. You've accomplished so much, but when you were 10 or 16, you had a different paradigm about life. So what advice would you give to that 15-year-old version of yourself?
So I have a 5-year-old right now, and again, he doesn't know what's going on in the world, right? So you want to guide them, you want to give them information and insight, but you also want to allow him to learn and make mistakes and grow and understand hard work is what drives people, right? And don't be someone that gives everything to them, right? So for me, choice, I would say if I had the opportunity to travel more earlier, it would allow me to have a better appreciation of how other people live, how people live, go through life in their struggles and in different parts of the world, different economies, different situations, different perspectives, right? I feel being able to be an immigrant to live in Canada allowed me to have a different perspective. But imagine going to different parts of the world, there were countries all over the world, right? To see how they struggle and see if you can actually make an impact in their lives would be amazing, right? Just more perspectives, more travel would be amazing.
Yeah, I think travel is really important, and it'd be great to see a lot of Americans travel, because when I've traveled, what I realize, and this sounds kind of corny, but around the world, everybody's almost identical in terms of what they want: love, security, respect, opportunity, hope, a future for their family. It doesn't change culture to culture, right? And I think what changes from country to country is at some levels, they're obviously their political structures, maybe perhaps corruption that limits people's ability to progress as a human being. But I think it's a very valuable lesson to go out there and just reflect and observe that everybody, no matter what country they're in, they want something for life. They want something more than they have. They want to certainly provide for their family. And depending on the country and the opportunities, that could be very, very limited. And I think that's why America still remains that beacon of hope for a lot of people. But I think you're absolutely right. So what have you accomplished thus far in life, whether it be personally and professionally, that makes you the most proudest, or the proudest, and why?
For me, it's just being a father. I think I'm super proud to have found someone and really take care of someone, mold them as a human, and hopefully they have the same values that I do and have great choices and just living with care, right? Someone that actually has purpose, has a giving mentality. Outside of being a parent, I mean, business ownership has been a challenge for sure. And I'm just starting. I feel like I've just started to hit my stride, where I feel I'm starting to learn a lot about community building. I'm a part of 10 other communities right now, to absorb and learn as much as I can to build my own community of like-minded individuals. Then I'm in the process of writing a book. I have a lot of things going on, initiatives, but just have fun, right? So I kind of take on too much sometimes, but my team puts me back into like reality of like, slow down. I know you're ultra ambitious. Just, things take time to evolve in mode, right?
Yeah.
So surround yourself with good people that know how your behaviors are, and they're honest with you.
Yeah. No, that's true. Very good points. Is there anything we haven't covered that you'd like to share with the audience?
Just have fun, man. Life is a journey. Slow down. People are always chasing. And I've learned this over the last couple of years after I started meditating, being ultra grateful, doing a lot of like reading and living presently, disconnecting. I disconnect from a lot of news and social media because it has no purpose in my life, right? If I wanted to reach out to people, I'll call them. I'll actually want to spend time and have video chats with my mom or people that really matter. Everyone else, like, they're chasing for more likes and follows and more comments. And do they really want, do they have any room in your life? Like, think about it, right? So I've learned, I've evolved, I've gotten smarter. I know what I want in life. I surround myself with good people, but it takes time, maturity, right? Experience. And I surround myself with wiser people, 60, 70, 80-year-olds that have lived life. And that's why I learned in business ownership. Like at Yellow Pages, all my meetings were with business owners that were 60. And I was in my mid 20s to 30s. I got so much wisdom from them of what it meant to be a business ownership, right? Business owners don't really care about the money, but it's about what they're providing for the community. What resonates with them is taking care of their family, being a good human that serves others by adding value. All these wisdom nuggets I learned from these thousands of business owners mold me today.
Yeah, boy, that's worth the book right there, right? Servant-centered leadership and the contrast with social media and what people pursue in the short term. And, it's funny, people sort of begin with the end in mind, which is one of the tenets that Stephen Covey talked about. Maybe they live life a little differently. I mean, even in these political times, people live in the exact second, and their emotional makeup is based on the exact second of information they're getting and a position they want to take. And when they're probably 70, 80, 90 on their deathbed, probably what's happening today probably won't have as much meaning or value, right? It's what you're talking about. People, family, the things that really matter, what you did in this life to make it a better place on the planet, and maybe seek to understand before being understood is another concept. So, John, wow, what a story. Fired up. Your parents came over to North America to be able to bring you and your siblings here to make a huge impact. And hopefully your story resonates with other immigrants that have come here, that are planning on coming here. Because I think that's the kind of immigration policy we need. We get people that are, they go out there, they're aggressive for the better good, for the community. And they really have a bright spot, certainly in this part of the continent, part of the world.
Yeah, just be good, be happy, enjoy it, slow down, be grateful of what you have.
Yeah, just like the slogan from Google, don't be evil, right?
Don't be evil.
All right, John, thanks for coming on Beyond. Really enjoyed the conversation.
Amazing. Thanks a lot for having me, Ben.
You bet.